2026 isn't just stacked, it's overloaded. Okay, we're standing at a year where Grand Theft Auto 6 is finally locked for November. Marvel's Wolverine is going darker than anyone expected and now a PlayStation exclusive. Fable is trying to revive a legendary RPG game, and Halo Combat Evolved is getting rebuilt from the ground up. Now, not console exclusive. And that's just the safe stuff, okay? Because at the same time, Bungie's betting big on Marathon. Naughty Dog is stepping into sci-fi territory with Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. A brand new IP like Saros and Pragmata are trying to break into a year dominated by giants, okay? This isn't a normal release calendar. This is legacy versus innovation. Studio reputation versus player expectation. I'm a poet, I don't know it. Delayed promises versus actually delivery. If even half of these games land and they are as loud as my neighbor with his lawnmower right now, 2026 could be one of the greatest gaming years we've ever seen. But if the delays stack up, if one of these titans fumble, if one of these sure things misses the mark, it won't just be disappointing, it'll shift the industry. Okay? You can come back and quote me on this. Because you and I both know something most casual players don't. When this many heavy hitters drop in the same year, not everyone walks away untouched. Okay? Studios get exposed, franchises either evolve or break, and the games that survive, they redefine the ceiling. So the real question isn't just, hey, what are we playing in 2026? No. The real question is this. Which of these games actually changes gaming for good, and which ones crack under the pressure? Woo! The first wave of 2026 isn't subtle. It's built on names that don't get second chances. Let me start with the most obvious, the most important, the one that we are all waiting since 2013, Grand Theft Auto 6. This isn't just another open world game. This is Rockstar coming back after more than a decade since GTA 5 rewrote the rules. 2 delays already tested patience. Expectations are no longer high. They're unreasonable. Vice City returns, bigger world, smarter NPC systems, deeper immersion. But here's the pressure. Rockstar isn't competing with other studios. They're competing with their own legacy. If GTA 6 launches and it's just very good, that won't be enough. It has to feel generational. It has to feel epic. It has to feel legend. Wait for it. Very. And when a game carries that weight, every mechanic, every story beat, every performance hiccup becomes magnified. One crack. Oh, and the internet won't whisper about it. Promise you, they will scream. Then there's Marvel's Wolverine. Yes, it's been confirmed that it's going to be a PS5 exclusive. Insomniac builds enormous trust with Spider-Man, fast combat, emotional storytelling, technical polish. But Wolverine isn't Spider-Man with claws. The tone is darker, brutal, personal. If they lean too safe, fans call it watered down. If they go too violent, they alienate a little bit of part of the audience that we don't care about. This is a tonal tightrope for PS, and the risk is bigger than people realize. If Wolverine lands, it proves Insomniac isn't just good at one hero, they're elite at character-driven action. If it misses, it's not looking good for Venom. That shine fades fast. Now layer in Fable. Playground Games master open world racing. That's very different from resurrecting a beloved fantasy RPG loaded with British humor, moral choices, and nostalgia. Me, myself, I grew up with Fable 2 and it was fantastic. Fable isn't just a reboot. It's a test of whether modern studios can revive charm without turning it into parody. And then there's Halo Combat Evolved being rebuilt. Halo isn't just a franchise, okay? It was, for the longest, Xbox identity. Rebuilding the original campaign means touching something sacred. If they modernize it too much, purists revolt. If they don't modernize it enough, new players won't care. Whew. Here's the unforgettable truth about Wave 1. When legacy franchises return, they don't just launch games. They gamble reputations. And if even one of these pillars stumble, it won't just hurt sales, it changes how we look at AAA forever. But here's where it escalates. you're still with me. Give me a like. That's amazing. Hit me on a comment below. What's the one that you're most excited about? Because this next wave that I'm about to talk, it's not just legacy. It's about studios taking risks they've never taken before. Here's where things get uncomfortable because now we're not talking about safe sequels or nostalgic reboots. We're talking about studios stepping outside of their comfort zones and betting their reputations on it. Let's start with Marathon. Bungie going back to the Marathon game. It sounds nostalgic on paper, but this isn't a retro remake. It's a full player versus player extraction shooter, high tension, high punishment. You're fighting 5 other 3-player teams while AI threat swarms the map. All for loot you can lose in seconds. Extraction shooters aren't casual, they're ruthless, and this genre doesn't forgive imbalance or weak progression systems. If the risk-reward loop isn't perfect, players bounce fast. Okay? The pressure here isn't just gameplay, it's identity. Bungie helped define arena shooters with Halo and perfected field-driven gunplay with Destiny. But Extraction? Bungie, that's a different battlefield. If Marathon hits, Bungie proves they can evolve, okay? If it misses, it becomes another live service warning sign. Now, look at Saros. Housemark already delivered intensity with Returnal, but Saros adds permanent progression into a roguelike structure. That changes the psychology entirely. Instead of pure repetition mastery, you now carry momentum between runs. That sounds small, right? Yeah? It isn't. Okay, roguelike live or die by their loop. Too punishing and players quit. Too forgiving and tension disappears. Sorrows isn't trying to balance persistent with pressure, and that balance is razor thin. I'm sweating thinking about it. Then there's Pragmata. This game has been mysterious for years. Futuristic empty cities, an android child, an astronaut, emotional undertones. It feels closer to Death Stranding than Resident Evil, and that's exactly a risk. Okay? Capcom is known for structured, polished, genre-defining action. Pragmata looks, to me, experimental, slower, stranger, narrative-heavy. That's not their comfort zone. Okay? And then we escalate even further with Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet. Naughty Dog, the masters of Crash Bandicoot and Last of Us, stepping away from grounded emotional apocalypse storytelling into retro future sci-fi. That's bold. That's a big move. They've built reputation on human drama inside realistic settings. Now they're betting on a completely new universe. New lore, new tone, new systems. This is the kind of move that either launches the next decade defining franchise or fractures trust between players and one of the biggest studios out there. Here's a line you can't ignore. It's easier to protect a legacy than to build a new one. Wave 2 isn't about living up to history. It's about creating it under a spotlight that doesn't blink. And that pressure only gets worse. Why? Because the next wave isn't just about studios. It's about the genres themselves fighting for survival. 2026. 2026 isn't just stacked with titles. It's stacked with competing playstyles fighting for your time, for your attention. Look at the extraction shooter space alone. Marathon isn't launching into an empty arena. It's entering a battlefield already filled with Tarkov-style tension, high-skilled player versus player expectations, and a player base that punishes imbalance instantly. If Bungie doesn't nail pacing, progression, and long-term reward systems, the genre doesn't wait for updates. It moves on, right? And that's the brutal truth about modern multiplayer ecosystems. Loyalty is earned weekly. Weekly. Now, let's shift to large-scale military chaos. Hell Let Loose Vietnam is doubling down on 50-50 warfare, squad tactics, command roles, and punishing realism. That's not arcade fun, that's coordination, patience, and communication. It's the kind of design that demands commitment from the player. And here's the tension. Modern players say they want depth, but metrics consistently show they gravitate towards accessibility. If Vietnam leans too hardcore, it risks narrowing its audience. If it simplifies too much, it betrays what makes it special. Then we pivot into cooperative chaos with Toxic Commando. Four players, zombie insanity. You heard that right. Vehicles, crafting, waves, over the top action. This space has history. Left 4 Dead, Back for Blood, Call of Duty Zombies. The formula works until it doesn't. Because co op shooters live and die on replayability. If mission variety fades, if enemy types feel repetitive, if progression lacks that depth, even the most explosive gameplay loop burns out fast. You heard it here first. Or probably not, I don't know. Now, contrast all of that with the narrative driven experiences like Life is Strange Reunion. No leaderboard, no PvP sweat, just story, emotion, atmosphere. In a year dominated by spectacle, can slower character focused storytelling still command attention? Or does it get drowned out by louder, flashier systems competing for dopamine spikes? Me, I'm a narrative man myself. But in 2026, genres aren't coexisting, they're competing for oxygen. Hmm? Extraction wants tension. Hardcore shooters want coordination. Co op chaos wants replay value. Narrative games wants patience. And that's something that we've been running out of fast. And you, the player who actually pays attention to industry patterns, already sees the problem. There are only so many hours in a week, less if you have a job. When this many high demand genres collide in the same calendar year, something gives. The question isn't which games are good, right? It's which playstyles survived the year. Remember when it was like which playstyle survived the decade? Good times. And that leads directly into the final escalation because some of the most dangerous contenders in 2026 aren't the obvious ones at all. Because while everyone's arguing about GTA, Halo, and extraction shooters, the real chaos might come from the games no one can confidently categorize yet. Let's start with Phantom Blade Zero. This game came out of nowhere and immediately shifted conversations. Kung Fu punk aesthetic, hyperfluid combat, a revenge story with a 66-day ticking clock before death. It looks like Devil May Cry collided with Wuxia cinema and modern Souls-like intensity. But here's the danger. Style can sell a trailer. It can carry a 4-hour 4-minute experience. It can't carry a 40-hour experience. If the combat loop doesn't evolve, if enemy designs lacks depth, if difficulty spikes feel artificial, that early hype turns into backlash instantly. Okay? And when a game explodes in popularity before launch, expectations inflate faster than development cycles can keep up. Okay? Look at Pragmata. Still mysterious, still strange. Empty lunar cities and Android Child. Like I said, emotional undertones that feel closer to art house sci-fi than blockbuster action. It's either going to be unforgettable or confusing people enough that they just check out halfway through and on the shelves and never think of it again. That kind of ambiguity is powerful, but it's volatile. Now throw in something like Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. I mean, on paper, it sounds safe, right? Lego humor, Gotham City, couch co-op chaos. But this isn't a remaster. It's a full modern rebuild. That means modern expectations, performance, open world density, systematic depth. Family-friendly games don't get a free pass anymore. It's sad, but it's true. If it feels dated, players notice. If it surprises with polish and scale, it quietly becomes one of the year's biggest wins. And between you and I think it will. And then you have Red Sands Requiem. Massive world, factions at war, player caught in the middle, the promise of emergent storytelling at its best. These are ambitious systems, but large-scale dynamic worlds are incredibly difficult to execute. AI needs to feel alive. Consequences must ripple outward. If systems break immersion, the illusion collapses. Here's the line that matters. The most dangerous games in 2026 aren't the obvious blockbusters. They're the ambitious wildcards. Because wildcards don't carry decade-old expectations. They carry possibility. They carry surprise. They carry that nostalgic feeling of playing a game for the first time, not knowing what it was. And possibility is unpredictable. If even one of these lands perfectly, it doesn't just do well. It disrupts the hierarchy. It steals attention from giants. It changes the conversation from which sequel wins to where did this come from? You already know this. Sometimes the game of the year isn't the one with the biggest marketing budget. We've seen it. It's the one that feels different at the right moment for the right reasons. And when a year is this crowded, different becomes powerful. Which brings us to the real tension of 2026. Not which games are releasing, but what kind of industry survives after they do. So here's a part nobody wants to say out loud. 2026 isn't just a celebration year. It's a game changer, no pun intended. It's a pressure test. If Grand Theft Auto 6 delivers at the level people expect it to, it resets the benchmark for open worlds again. If it underdelivers, even slightly, delusion of untouchable AAA cracks. The same goes for Marvel's Wolverine, for Fable, for every legacy title trying to prove we still matter. But the bigger shift might not come from the giants. Like I said, if something like Cyros perfects progression inside a roguelike structure, that changes how future action games handle failure. If Marathon nails tension and long-term engagement, then that extraction shooter solidifies as a permanent pillar instead of a trend. If a wildcard like Phantom Blade Zero lands with precision, it proves that style plus depth can still cut through franchise dominance. That's why this year feels a little bit different. Not because there are a lot of games we've had stacked years before, but because we're watching multiple studios attempt evolution at the same time. Old names trying to stay relevant, established developers stepping into unfamiliar territory, new IP daring to stand beside legends. What a fight. There are only so many hours in a week, only so much attention to go around. Something will dominate, something will disappoint, something unexpected will steal the spotlight. And when we look back at 2026, it won't just be about what released. It'll be about which direction the industry chose when everything was on the line. I can see you dropping me a like and commenting, subscribing. Good for you. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.